The crash on Ganymede. Commander Elias Wren had always found peace in the silence of Jupiter's moons. Ganymede in particular was his favorite. Its deep, icy ridges and smooth plateaus of frozen methane gave the illusion of tranquility. After a decade of service in the Interstellar Relief Corps, Elias was finally considering retirement, until the distress signal came. It was barely a blip, faint, pulsing, and alien. A ship of unknown design had crash-landed in the Cerberus Chasm, a treacherous canyon miles deep. The nearest outpost with rescue capabilities was 5 days out, but Elias was already orbiting Ganymede in his single-pilot cutter. He didn't hesitate. The wreckage was brutal. Charred metal curved upward like claws, and purple fires flickered in oxygen-starved spurts. The ship bore no known insignia, just strange symbols carved in lines and spirals. A hatch, partially torn, revealed something moving inside. Elias forced the door open with an exosuit assist. Inside lay the bodies of several alien beings, humanoid in form but taller, slenderer, with lavender skin that shimmered faintly under the ship's flickering emergency lights. They were clearly dead except for a soft sound, a whimper. There, behind a support beam, lay a small figure. Child. Big, silvery eyes met Elias's with a mixture of terror and hope. It was covered in scratches and bruises, and clutched a small orb that glowed with a soft pulse. "I've got you," Elias whispered, lifting the small alien gently into his arms. The child did not resist. 2. The Orphan and the Orb. Back aboard his ship, Elias placed the alien child, whom he began calling Kilo, in the medbay and activated a universal translator. It would take time to calibrate to the alien language, but body language did most of the talking. Kilo didn't speak for the first day. The child mourned in silence, holding on to the glowing orb even while sleeping. When the translator finally activated, Kilo's first word was, "Mother." Elias swallowed hard. "I'm sorry, Kilo. I couldn't save the others." Kilo blinked, then looked at the orb. "This is her memory stone. Holds her thoughts, her love." Through conversations pieced together with a translator, Elias learned that Kilo's species, the Virellans, shared emotional bonds via memory stones. Each stone was encoded with memories and essence, almost like a spiritual backup. Kilo's mother had sealed her essence into the stone before dying. The father had died shielding them during the crash. Elias promised himself something then. This child would not suffer more loss. Not on his watch. 3. Pursuit from the stars. But not everyone shared Elias's compassion. Less than 48 hours after the rescue, a signal was intercepted. Unknown origin, encoded in the same format as Kilo's memory stone. It wasn't a distress call. It was a beacon. Elias had unknowingly activated it when removing Kilo from the ship. And someone very dangerous, had heard it. 3 days later, a heavily armed vessel entered the Ganymede sector. Black as pitch, fast as light. The Heliox Raiders. Known for trafficking rare alien species and technology. They wanted the child. Elias barely escaped their pursuit with Kilo hidden in the cargo hold. After days of weaving through asteroid belts and radio silence, Elias found refuge on a rogue moon. Seria V, a forgotten terraforming project turned smuggler's haven. There he met Dr. Milan Zara, a xenobiologist with deep contacts across the galaxy. She examined Kilo and confirmed his worst fear. The memory stone was fading. The trauma and shock had disrupted its stability. Without a rejuvenation protocol from another Virellan, it would degrade entirely within weeks. Kilo would lose his mother's final essence. And so Elias made a new vow. Not only would he protect Kilo, he'd find the Virellan homeworld, believed lost for centuries after their exodus from a supernova. The search for Varela. Galactic records listed the Varellans as extinct. Their homeworld Varela had supposedly been consumed by a stellar event 200 years prior. But Zara believed fragments of the race still existed, nomads perhaps, or colonies in hiding. With Zara's help, Elias and Kilo ventured into outlaw space. From the ruins of the Archon Labyrinth to the floating markets of Centaura Drift, they searched for clues. They followed whispers, old symbols, myths told by travelers too drunk to lie. Kilo began to grow more comfortable, playing games mimicking human words and sometimes even laughing. The orb, his mother's memory stone, would occasionally glow when he felt strong emotion. Elias became like a father, and the child began to trust again. Then, at the edge of the Siluan Nebula, they found her. A lone Varellan cruiser, scarred and hidden in the nebula's plasma fields. Aboard it, survivors. Among them was Soraya, Kilo's mother's sister. A widow herself, she had believed her entire family lost. When she saw Kilo, she fell to her knees. The reunion was overwhelming. Varellans didn't cry as humans did, but Soraya's skin pulsed in vivid, luminous waves of emotion. She held Kilo for hours and sang in the harmonic language of their people, restoring the fading stone with her own aura. Kilo's mother's memories returned, fragmented but whole enough for comfort. The hero in their eyes. Elias thought it was the end of his journey, but Soraya insisted he stay with them, at least for a time. The Varellans needed help. Their numbers were dwindling, their technology outdated, and the Heliox raiders had already begun tracking their signals. Elias taught them human tactics, upgraded their defenses, and trained their youth in survival techniques. Kilo often sat by his side, eager to learn. Soraya watched this with quiet admiration. She saw Elias not as a rescuer, but as a symbol, someone who crossed stars to save a child not his own. Among her people, that was the highest form of heroism. In Varellan culture, when someone saves a bloodline, they are honored with a rite known as Ahalreth, a spiritual joining of fate. It wasn't marriage in the human sense, but a sacred bond, a lifelong connection. Soraya, guided by tradition and personal gratitude, performed the rite with Elias, offering him a place among her people. She placed her hand over his heart and said, "You saved more than a life. You preserved a soul." Elias accepted, not out of obligation, but because somewhere along the way, this orphan child and his luminous mother had become his family. 6. Final confrontation. But peace is never permanent. The Heliox raiders found the Varellans weeks later, guided by black market informants. They attacked under cover of the nebula, using plasma disruptors to overwhelm the cruiser's shields. Elias led the defense, side by side with Soraya and the others. Kilo, hidden with the elders, refused to stay out of harm's way. He activated his mother's memory stone, using its resonance to disable one of the raider ships. His first act of true courage. The battle was brutal. Half the Varellan fleet was disabled, but Elias managed to pilot an assault skiff directly into the lead Heliox ship, sabotaging its core from the inside. The raiders fled. The cost was high, but the Varellans survived, and the galaxy had seen their strength. 7. Epilogue. The child, the hero, and the stars. Years passed. Kilo grew into a leader among his people, known as the Child of the Stone. Elias became an advisor, a guardian figure, and something of a myth among Varellan children.